to the unapologetic truth. The channel we speak the truth and don't apologize for why? Because the truth never apologizes. Alright, before we get started, I want to apologize to everybody for not creating content for the last week. But as you know, some of you may know that my newborn has just recently been born. So I've been dealing with, that, trying to get things situated for our new baby girl. And yeah, now I'm back and now it's time to bring out more content. Alright, today we're going to talk about the deliberate crash and devaluation of the dollar. Alright, first off, as we all know, that the elite's been manipulating the dollar, also manipulating the market. We know that they're trying to come out with Rfid chip to get everyone chipped. As I showed you in previous videos, and if you haven't seen those videos, if you're new to this channel, you haven't seen those videos, scroll down and you'll bump into one or two of those videos. Alright, we know that they're trying to destroy the American economy, not just America's economy, but they're trying to destroy the global economy. Despite what you hear on the news, old media, despite what you hear on old media, the dollar will collapse and digital currency will come about. And the reason they're trying to bring about digital currency as new currency is because it's easier to store on an RFID chip because the currency is digital. Right? So, with that being said, let's start. First, we're going to get at inflation, right? And how inflation impacts you and how inflation impacts the U.S. dollar currency.
Fortunately, it continues. We're seeing it in a number of areas, really across the entire economy. It's especially concentrated right now in those food and energy prices, but input prices are up. And when we talk about input prices, we're talking about the things that the goods that make the things that we buy. So where we are right now with inflation is we're talking about inflation that's somewhere, depending on what your favorite gauge is, in the 3 to 4% range. We'll find out more about that this week when the CPI numbers are released. But that is considerably higher than anything that we've seen going back at least to the financial crisis and before that. So you would think that this is the kind of thing that really has policymakers, particularly at the Federal Reserve, but also in the halls of Congress, really standing up and taking notice. It's like, holy cow, we're seeing all these terrible inflationary pressures. But amazingly, it's not. And the reason for that is that the Fed still sees all of this as transitory. There are some who disagree. Most notably this week, Deutsche Bank came out with a rather lengthy note about where they think inflation is going, and they see it as being basically this hidden tiger right now that's ready to come back out and bite the economy. So Deutsche used this one particular phrase in the note that was especially terrifying, and they called it a potential global time bomb of inflation that's ready to go off out there. That gets to the important question of how long is this inflation going to take?
As you remember, I know some of you guys remember that in 2008 that it was a economic shutdown, government shutdown. It's because what the economy was going through. This right here is going to be 3 times worse than what 2008 was, right? And it could potentially send not just America, but the whole earth into a hyperinflation, right? And that will be bad for the US dollar, Chinese yuan, and all these other currencies that these other countries have in place, right? All right, so let's get back to the video.
Develop? Is this a thing that's going to be just the 2021 phenomenon? Deutsche actually thinks that the worst of it could come around 2023. So it's this thing that's ticking, ticking, ticking. And the reason why it keeps ticking is that we're continuing to do.
Remember, the banks know what's coming towards the economy. I wouldn't listen to these politicians. These politicians are liars. They are Illuminati, Freemason puppets. You know, they tell you, they basically they whisper sweet nothings in your ear, right? To get you to be like, okay, yeah, I believe everything they say. The economy is going to be good. But as we see right now, gas prices is up. Here, gas prices are like $3.50 a gallon. From what I hear, by the end of 2021, gas prices is going to spike to $5 a gallon. That's just in the states where, in the low income states, $5 a gallon. So imagine in New York or California or Las Vegas or Texas, these big states with millions and millions and millions of dollars, they're going to spike up to $8 to $10 a gallon by the end of 2021. As we see, not only gas prices, but housing market is spiking so high that no one in America will be able to afford to live unless you have more than one job, right? Or unless you well off, like wealthy or rich or super rich. All right. Also, unless you put your money into gold. Buying gold and silver is the next big thing. So when the dollar collapses, gold prices and silver prices is going to spike up high. Remember I told you this. All right.
Things that keep feeding into inflation. When I talk to my contacts, when I look at the things that really hit home with our readers, inflation is a huge thing now. So Deutsche is worried that, hey, if we continue down this road, and especially with the Fed keeping so much accommodation in place, keeping interest rates anchored near zero, buying $120 billion of bonds a month, the federal government spending over $5 trillion and wanting to spend a couple trillion more on infrastructure. All of these things help keep more money going into the system, and that helps create inflation. All these elements are out there, and it could very well be that we have a completely different conversation.
Exactly. So all this money that's been pumped into the economy is really actually causing inflation. These trillions of dollars they're giving you, like the first, second, and third stimulus checks, the child tax credit that they're giving you monthly until December, all of that is causing inflation. The more you create the dollar, the more the dollar devaluates. It's say for instance like this. Okay, take cryptocurrency for example. They created a digital currency and they create a specific amount. If the specific amount is limited, then the prices go up like Bitcoin. The amount is limited, so the prices shot up to 30-some thousand from back in 2012 when it was like what 500 or 1,000 a Bitcoin or something like that. The reason the prices shot up I mean, the reason the prices shot up is because the digital currency is limited to a certain amount of currency, right? So when you pump trillions and trillions of dollars, when you create trillions and trillions of dollars, that devaluates it, right? That's why you see some cryptocurrency is worth less. Let's say like Shiba Inu, right? That's one of the new currencies that came out in digital currency that came out in 2020, right? So Shiba Inu has trillions of Shiba Inu coins in circulation. This is why it would never reach a certain amount. It would never reach the amount that Bitcoin has, because Bitcoin has a limited amount. Now, Shiba Inu has an unlimited amount of coins, so it would never reach a certain dollar amount. And the more they make, the more it decreases. Right? Same with the dollar bill. The more you generate, the more you create, the less it'll be worth. The higher the inflation are. All right, let's get back to
it. Come the fall, but right now, there are some strong and growing concerns about inflation that I think we all need to pay attention to.
Right. So now let's get to the next one. Okay, what's going on with this?
More expensive. The Labor Department reported Thursday that consumer prices jumped 5% over the past year. That's the highest inflation rate in the U.S. since 2008. It means Americans are seeing higher prices on things like food, clothes, and lumber. To provide context for those numbers, I want to welcome Gwen Gilliford, an economics reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Welcome, Gwen. This is actually last year at this time, much of the country was in lockdown due to the pandemic. I'm wondering how that affects year-over-year differences and if that is contributing to this spike now.
It's definitely contributing to a lot of this spike. For some goods and services, the prices drop so much that they have to grow crazy fast just to get back to where they were pre-pandemic. So for instance, if you look at the year-over-year increase in airline fares, it's up a pretty shocking 24% in May, but then it's still down 12% from February of 2020, so just on the eve of the pandemic. So yeah, that what economists call the base effect is contributing to what looks like really kind of maybe even scary high inflation. But there are other factors too. As the economy reopens, there's consumer demand is picking up crazy fast, and that's kind of outstripping the ability of businesses to meet that demand. So you have shortages throughout the economy, and that's driving prices higher.
So certainly we're seeing that in travel and leisure, but I'm wondering if there are other specific sectors of the economy that people that aren't as discretionary that are seeing bigger jumps in prices.
Yeah, I mean, the price increases are maybe not precisely broad-based, but they're definitely, it's not just isolated to the hardest hit sectors, although those are definitely driving up the headline price index increase quite a lot. So, for instance, these are still consumer items, but the household goods like appliances are up a lot. Furnishings, indoor plants, all up a lot. And that's, that might be driven by the housing boom that is still going strong. So, there are a lot of factors going on right now, a lot of kind of strange pandemic dynamics that are happening that make it a little bit hard to tell what is really the most important question right now, which is like how much of this is temporary and how much of this is giving way to a more persistent shift into higher inflation.
That's helpful framing, Gwen. Along those lines, what do economists consider a safe level of inflation, and what happens when things get too high or too low? But that's not really the problem we're looking at here.
So the Fed targets an average percentage or average inflation of 2% over a period of time. That's sort of the sweet spot. There are a lot of economists that think that it can go higher, 3%, maybe even a little bit higher than that. There are some
they say 3%, but from what I heard, it will be 4.5% jump in inflation, which means higher prices. With housing, gas, clothing, used cars. Used cars is the highest it's ever been in almost more than 20 years. The price you pay for a used car will be the price you will normally pay for a newer car. And the price you pay for a newer car is much, much more higher than it would have been, I say, 15, 20 years ago.
Economists who think that any amount of inflation is not that great. What you don't want is accelerating inflation, and so that what you're trying to avoid is sort of a wage price spiral where people see prices going up, so they demand raises from their employers, and then their employers raise prices because their margins are getting crimped, and then people ask for even more money. So, and that just kind of builds on itself. It's a self-reinforcing dynamic.
And that's exactly where it's going. Like she said, inflation makes prices go higher, which employees will ask employers for more money, which in turn employers will raise prices, which in turn employees will ask for more money. So it keeps building like that. And it's going to keep building like that for a long time now. It's going to build like that for a long time now. All right, now let's get to the next clip. All right, so.
The latest report from the U.S. Department of Labor shows inflation surged last month. The Consumer Price Index, a key measure of inflation in the country, jumped to 5.4%.
5.4%. Higher than what I thought. I thought a 4.5, but 5.4%. This is what all elite economists is saying, that the Consumer Price Index rose 5.4%.
4% in June. That's the largest increase in 13 years. Analysts say that the spike is being driven in part by rising prices for gas, used cars, and hotels. So let's bring in Chief Economist for Moody's Analytics, Mark Zandi, to break it down for us. Mark, people had warned that, we were probably going to see some inflation, especially because, there were checks being handed out to help to keep everyone afloat. So explain.
Remember what I told you? These child tax credit, the stimulus check 1, 2, and 3, and possibly 4, all is making inflation happen. The more money you pump, the more prices go up. The more prices go up, the more employees ask for more money from employers. The more employers raise prices on their goods and services. And in turn, employees ask for more money, which makes inflation even higher.
Explain to the viewers why we're seeing this spike in inflation now.
Well, it's demand and supply. I mean, the economy's reopened very quickly on the other side of the pandemic, and demand has surged. People are out and about, going to restaurants and traveling again, and so big pickup in demand. And supply is just taking a little bit longer to kick into gear. Getting the lights turned on and people back in their seats is, not happening as quickly. So a lot of demand, not quite enough supply, so prices rise. The other thing to consider is that, a lot of businesses that got nailed by the pandemic, think hotels, think rental cars, think, anything related to the travel industry, airfares, those prices were cut significantly during the pandemic, and all that's happening now is that they're being reset. They're normalizing. They're going back to where they were, and of course that's inflation. But it's temporary, but it's inflation.
So should people be concerned, and what's your prediction for these rising consumer prices?
Well, it's uncomfortable, right? We're paying more at the gasoline tank if you're traveling. Airfares are back up. You're paying more if you're trying to fix your back deck and getting some lumber. You're clearly paying more. So it doesn't feel good, but I think it will be temporary. I think
Remember I told you that these economists would tell you what's going on, but then they tell you it's temporary. But really, it's not going to be temporary. It's not that simple. It's not that easy to make prices go back to normal. It's not that easy. So don't listen to. If you want to know what's really going on, listen to these banks. These banks would tell you exactly what's going on with the economy. As with Deutsche Bank, told you that it would keep going and it would hit its peak and probably beyond 2023. So right now, we're just in the beginning stages of higher prices. By the end of the year, prices are going to be even more higher. By the beginning of next year, prices are going to soar. And by 2023, prices are going to be so high that people will not be able to afford anything. All right, now let's get to the next clip.
Earlier, which is fascinating, which is in a lot of your recent writing, and that is a concern that the dollar may be losing its status as the world's reserve currency, the currency in which people do their deals, finance their transactions. How serious a problem?
As we see, this is the Washington Times, right? So they're letting you know that the dollar is losing its status as the world's currency. And it really is. These politicians would tell you, "Oh, it's not losing its the dollar is strong as it's ever been," but you see with your own eyes that prices are soaring. You see with your wallet that prices are soaring. So don't listen to these fake politicians when they tell you that everything's going to be okay when it's not going to be okay. Like I said, the elites are deliberately crashing the dollar, not just the dollar, but all other currencies around the earth, to establish this cryptocurrency. Why do you think cryptocurrency is so popular now? Well, we're going to get to that later. Right now, we're going to deal with the devaluation of the U.S. dollar and it's losing its status as the world's currency.
Do you think that is? And do you think the Chinese are prepared to make their currency, the yuan, over time more a store of value, a reserve currency for the world?
It's a major issue. Debt is money. When you produce debt, it's an obligation, when you're holding a bond, to deliver money, and you have to produce money. And we're producing a lot of it. And if you look at the holdings in the world of bonds and who is holding them, there's less, they're overweighted in bonds, and therefore overweighted in dollars and dollar assets. And there's, and we're going to try to sell a lot more. And that has created a risk for the dollar. The dollar's down about 12% since the actions have taken place. It's an issue. It's important because if you lose your reserve currency status, you lose your exorbitant privilege, really, to get money and borrow it when you need it. So it's a risk. That money can go into an alternative currency, or it can go into alternative assets. Traditionally, all devaluations drive money into stocks, gold, other assets. And so You don't have to just go to another currency in order to escape the bonds. You see devaluations of the dollar in relationship to all financial assets. But it's also coming at a time when China is also opening up its financial markets, and the world is underweighted in its financial markets. It's a viable economic alternative. It's a viable economic competitor. It's developing more capital markets. It's the second most important capital markets. They are opening up, and because the world is overweight in US dollars, the flow into that to rebalance is strengthening the renminbi. And the Chinese have intentionally not developed it because it's somewhat the internationalization of the renminbi, but now there is the internationalization of the renminbi. So to put it in perspective, China is now the largest country in trade, in world trade, exports, imports. It's larger than the United States. It's the largest in the world. And yet virtually none of its transactions are done in its currency, about 2%. So there will naturally increasingly be that the internationalization, and it will represent an alternative. And that's why then we have the issues of capital wars. Traditionally, this has happened through cycles. The Dutch and the Dutch guilder, the British and the British pound, the American cycle, and now the Chinese. And as a result of that, we're going to see more of that kind of movement.
Right. So,
John had the presence not only
see.
to lead the
As we see, the dollar is going to go away, period. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. There's nothing no one can do about it. It's already solidified from the debt that America has has stacked up. And also they bring in goods but not exporting anything. So which also takes a part into the devaluation of the US dollar. And they say that China's yuan is going to take over, but I guarantee that the yuan will not take over. It's going to be a digital currency, which a lot of other countries is adopting right now. And this is why the US is also adopted its own currency called Fed coin. Right? This coin has been in the works for a long time. They just wanted to sit back and see how each other country is adopting a different type of digital currency, as well how well can it do within the economy, right? So let's get to this right here. Let's talk about this Fed coin.
Of announcing it's taking another step at looking at the possibility of issuing a central bank digital currency, saying it's going to issue a paper. And that paper will be issued this summer that will focus on the benefits and risks of a central bank digital currency. The Fed's going to ask for public comment on whether or if it should do this thing and what the risks are. And Chair Powell saying in a video release that the Fed made available along with this statement that this represents the beginning of a thoughtful and deliberative process when it comes to thinking about.
This is the beginning of the introduction earthwide of the Rfid chip. Only way that you would be able to put money on this chip is digital. You can't put paper money onto a chip. You cannot put coins onto a chip. But what you can do is put digital assets up on this RFID chip. This is why they're all coming out with either their own digital coin or adopting a coin like Bitcoin. I'm going to get to that later too. So this solidifies everything I've been saying when I said that the U.S. dollar is being destroyed, and it's being destroyed deliberately by the elites.
About a central bank digital currency, he does not say, for the record, the Fed has reached a conclusion to issue one. But here's some quick sound from what the chairman released in his video.
We are committed at the Federal Reserve to hearing a wide range of voices on this important issue before making any decision on whether and how to move forward with the U.S. CBDC, taking account of the broader risks and opportunities it could offer.
He also says the CBDC should be designed for general public use and should be a complement, not a replacement for cash. So, Kelly, hard to know exactly how big of a step this is.
Remember, I told you, don't listen to what they say, because they tell you it's not a replacement to cash. You have to see it for yourself, because when the economy is down like it is, S&P 500 and all these things are down more than 30%. Inflation is rising high. The dollar is devaluating every single second of every day until the day that it crashes. You will know that these people are trying to bring out something that will replace that, so they could stay at the height of being the world top currency. Right now, there is a digital asset war. Well, I wouldn't say war, but race. Which country can bring out and have other countries adopt their digital currency as the world leading currency? And the US, China, and Russia is at the forefront of these.
The Fed has been thinking about issuing a CBDC for quite some time, but now it's going to issue this paper, and that paper will be coming out in the summer.
Steve, it's interesting to look at what's happening in China with some of the experiments they've been running with digital currency. It might make it hard.
Remember what I told you? I said the yuan, which is the Chinese currency, is not going to be the world leading currency. They are also moving to a digital currency. Every country is moving towards a digital currency. This is what the elite wants. They want every country to move to a digital currency. So it'll be easier to store them on the RFID chip, which we'll get to later.
Harder for Rfid, because obviously China can do more tracking of citizens' use of the currency. They can use monetary tools that Rfid might want to pursue, like putting an expiration date, for instance, on currency when they're trying to stimulate the economy. But it does seem like they'll have to face down concerns on a number of different fronts and maybe clearly delineate what a digital currency can and can't do.
You've got that absolutely right. There are major privacy concerns that come with this kind of currency. And by the way, the Federal Reserve has this thing called Congress that it ostensibly works for that would have to approve of such a thing. Unclear what the public temperature is for this sort of thing. So we're kind of trying to look. The way I describe this, Kelly, is the Fed is the main train that takes you from your suburbs to your city. All of a sudden, over time, these other trains the tracks have been laid down on the side. So there's this Bitcoin train, this other train that are kind of promising sort of to do the same thing. And the Fed's trying to figure out how much of a threat and how much of this new technology it needs to be on board with. And it's kind of inching its way, trying to slow walk this thing. But the technology is moving faster, I think, than the Fed is ready for.
In terms of our competition with...
Right, so as we see that the Feds and central bank are coming out with their own currency, which is what we call Fed coin, right? And it's going to try to rival Bitcoin, it's going to try to rival Dogecoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and all these other different types of coins. This is why it's imperative that you invest in a digital asset. Investing in a digital asset will be actually beneficial for you in the long run. Right? So, a lot of these other countries are also investing in these digital currencies. Not just investing in the digital currencies, but they are creating their own currency, right? Alright, so let's get to this one here.
Had a little bit of further details on El Salvador's announcement about Bitcoin becoming legal tender in the country.
Now, El Salvador is adopting Bitcoin as a currency.
So Bitcoin will not replace the U.S. dollar in El Salvador, the country.
Yes, it will.
Secretary of Commerce and Investment Miguel Catton said on Monday. So he was responding to Salvadorans who were confused about the new announcement from.
If they want to, I apologize for keep pausing it, but I have a lot of things to say. If it doesn't replace the U.S. dollar, then why are you adopting Bitcoin as your currency if it's not to replace the dollar? It's not making sense. Like one of the videos I made that all countries are ditching the dollar. If you haven't seen that video, scroll down and watch the video. Also on this video, leave a like, leave a comment, also subscribe to the channel. The channel is growing, and I appreciate every one of you who supports the channel. It really I really appreciate it, and it really means a lot to me to have this channel grow. Let's try to get the likes up. Let's try to get this channel up to 500. That's our mark that we're trying to hit for this month. And in order for us to do that, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you haven't shared it, share it, because a lot of other people might like the content and subscribe also. And by leaving a like and commenting, it also tells the YouTube algorithm to share these videos to a wider audience, which in turn will bring in more subscribers.
President Nayib Bukele that Bitcoin would become legal tender in the country. And a report out in Reuters Monday afternoon noted that the announcement could complicate a $1 billion program with the International Monetary Fund, with some analysts saying that the move could signal a lack of coordination with the IMF. The move also could make tax evasion and money laundering in the country easier, some analysts said. So this is something where Catton is coming back, and he's explaining that goods will remain dollar denominated in El Salvador. So each good would be sold based on its dollar price, even if the consumer is paying with Bitcoin, kind of reassuring both citizens and the world, IMF at large, that the dollar will still reign supreme in El Salvador. So I want to throw it to the group.
The dollar will not reign supreme in El Salvador, and I've already solidified that towards the beginning of this video, showing you that the dollar is decreasing and the dollar is losing its weight as the leading currency of the earth. So if that's the case, then you should know. Common sense would tell you that the dollar would not be dominant in any other country, especially after they go ahead and adopt these other digital assets.
Bitcoin not yet ready for its debut as a currency, or is this a good thing for Bitcoin that it shouldn't be a country's currency yet, or is this a sad move for like Bitcoiners who want to see it become the world reserve currency? What do you guys think?
I just want to confirm. So nothing really has happened then in El Salvador. The dollar is still. So it was like okay, just confirming.
I think you've been reading too much crypto Twitter, right? The lack of nuance in some of the crypto Twitter boosters was quite striking.
other countries is adopting these digital assets, these digital coins, as their currency, right? All right, now let's go to this.
Co-founder of Anchorage, the first...
Listen, pay attention. Remember what I told you. Just pay attention and hear these people.
First federally chartered digital asset bank. Diogo, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this is a digital assets bank. This is a bank that deals with totally nothing but digital coins. They don't deal with dollars. They don't deal with any other currency but digital coins. The Earth's very first digital asset bank.
All right, let's break this down. What does that mean? You got this designation this week. When we talk about the first federally chartered digital bank dealing with cryptocurrencies, what does that mean? What does that enable you to do?
Well, it means that for the first time, institutions have a company that has both the technology and the regulatory clarity so that they can build products in crypto. That was not the case until Wednesday.
Yeah. I spoke to Michael Sonnenschein of Grayscale yesterday. 2 to 20 billion in assets under management last year for that Bitcoin trust. Most of that institutional. You're obviously operating and focusing on that institutional realm as well. What are you seeing in terms of demand? What are the type of, products and infrastructure that these institutional players that are in large part driving the rally we've seen looking for?
Yeah, so Anchorage is a regulated digital asset platform. What we allow is institutions to build products in crypto by providing.
As we can see right here to your right of your screen, it's backed by Visa. It's the first federally chartered crypto bank with a vast range of services for institutional investors. So it's also backed by Visa, which in turns other credit card systems like MasterCard or different types of different types of credit card companies are going to back these digital coins, these digital assets, right? So we see, that everyone is getting on board with this digital coins, including the US, including banks, including credit card companies, and different things like that. So we see that cryptocurrency is becoming a new currency across the earth, and all other currency, which is the US dollar, yuan, peso, or all these other currencies, is going to be obsolete. Remember, everything is going digital. Digital shopping. You can buy a car off of the internet. You can do anything. You could even order groceries from the grocery store off the internet. Everything is going digital, including your money.
Providing them custody, trading, borrowing, lending, and all these other blockchain activities. We actually have quite a few different client profiles. We have hundreds of clients, but as two examples, we have institutional investors. Think about large VC firms or crypto funds, for example, Andreessen Horowitz, that want to invest in the bleeding edge of crypto assets. And on the other side, you have large corporates, for example, Visa, wanting to build products in crypto. We have seen a massive difference from 3 years ago, where institutions were coming to Anchorage to ask us what they should do in crypto. And now they're coming to Anchorage with very concrete ideas of what they want to build on our platform and asking specifically how they can build it.
Diogo, I wonder, are people also coming to your platform to help them find their Bitcoin? And I mention that simply because I think a lot of people have seen the statistic. I don't know whether it's correct, but even if it's directionally right, that as much as 20% is so-called stranded. People forgot their passwords. Is that a real thing, and what can you do about it?
Yeah, it is unfortunately a real thing. But if you think about it, Bitcoin is a very distinct asset. It is digital in nature, but it is a bearer instrument. If you think about the fact that owning Bitcoin is equivalent to having to have this passphrase, almost like you have in these online products, you have to remember the passphrase. And remember, people are terrible at remembering their passphrases, so it's only natural that they're also terrible at maintaining control of digital assets. But this is part of the reason why Anchorage exists. The custody technology that we've built has a proven track record for years, moving billions of dollars on chain. And this is part of the reason why.
Look at this. Bitcoin is at $36,000 a coin. Ethereum is at 1,175 cents a coin. Litecoin is at 143 cents a coin. Now, the reason you see it down right now is because everyone has not adopted these coins as of yet. But it's a monopoly effect. Well, you know what I mean. It's a domino effect. One country after another will soon adopt these coins as their currency. And this will not be so. But the US dollar and all other currencies will look like this, but more than what you see here.
This announcement on Wednesday is so important. You finally have the ability for the institutions that have been sitting on the sidelines, either because of safety concerns or lack of regulatory clarity. Now they can actually come in and offer these services. And if you think about it, in 2020, we've had PayPal come out with offering crypto buy and sell to their clients. We've had Square do the same. Anchorage has been seeing a huge influx in neobanks and challenger banks, seeing that the millennials want to own crypto assets. And now they know that they actually have to provide these services, and they're looking for a partner to do so.
When I think of something like a bank charter, I think about regulations and compliance. I wonder what your outlook is in terms of regulations for the crypto market, especially as a new administration here in the U.S. takes hold next.
Now, as we see, the dollar is going extinct. Now, let's get to where I told you that these people are getting Bitcoin and a lot of these other coins onto a chip, which is the RFID chip, and they get it under their skin, right? All right, so I'm going to have to mute this. There will be no talking on the video. It's only music playing, but they're showing that people are getting Bitcoin wallets, which is the RFID chip, and put Bitcoin on an RFID chip. Now let's see what it says. Dang. I hate when it happens. Alright. Subdermal NFC implants, which is the RFID, another name for the RFID chip. Store your Bitcoin under your skin. Store your Bitcoin under your skin. Let's go. As we can see, there are people that's lining up to get this RFID chip to have their digital assets like Bitcoin placed on their chip. we can see this guy is really getting this chip put into his hand. Not just him, but it's also other people who also is getting this chip put into their hand, where they can get their digital assets, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, Shiba Inu coin, which is the newest coin that was started in 2020. All of these will be placed on that RFID chip. Look at the line. The line is long. The line will get even longer with people getting this chip put into their hand. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to get this chip just to have your money placed on this chip? So you got to understand. So you have to understand this. Now, when you get this chip placed under your hand, you're going to be able to do a wide variety of things. Open your door, start your car, digitize your house or apartment. This is where your money will be stored, your information from your medical history, all different types of things, right? The dollar is going to be obsolete. So in order for you to be able to buy things, in order for you to be able to sell things, or anything like that, guess what? You're going to have this chip. If you don't have this chip, you're not going to be able to have no money, period. You're not going to be able to have no money. You're not going to be able to have a business because you won't be able to sell goods and services. If you can't get money, if you can't get the digital currency, right? So what are you going to do? Are you going to fall for the okie doke? Are you going to be like this guy here? Or the woman before him, or the woman before her? What are you going to do? What is your decision? Are you going to defy what the scripture has says, that this is going to happen? As you can see, it's happening. What are you going to do? As more and more people line up to get this chip, as more and more people line up to get this chip, what are you going to do when they make it mandatory for you to get this chip? What are you going to do? Are you going to comply? Or are you going to defy? It's up to you. I'm bringing you this information well ahead of time so you can make the decision way ahead of time. Me personally, me and my family will not be getting this chip. We won't. So you have the decision to make. Do you want to get this chip to just so you can survive in this society, or you're not and you'll be able to survive on your own? I'm not saying it won't be easy. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, because it's not going to be easy. So, with that being said, share, like, and comment. Share, like, and comment. In that order. We need this information to get out to the masses. So with your help, it will be able to do that. And a lot of other people will wake up and see what's actually going on. If you don't comply with these people, they can just turn off your chip. You won't be able to buy anything, you won't be able to sell anything, you won't be able to do anything, because they'll turn off your chip. If you don't take the chip, just saying, just giving you the facts. I'm just giving you the facts. Make wise decisions. Okay, so this is Unapologetic Truth. The channel where we speak the truth and don't apologize for it. Why? The truth never apologizes. I'm out.